Really, one of the water is essentially the main culprit, or certainly in various ways is at the top of the list through various means when it comes to the failure of structures. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The other way that structures get wiped out is through neglect, usually in the form of vegetation, so the growth of trees. And in a minute we're going to talk about both. But so those two, water and trees, kind of in a way represent two factors in the structure. So water, and the way that water interacts with the structure, is kind of a design element. So if water is washing through, that's as a result of the failure of design of drainage, the failure of design of the deck, moving water off, the failure of the design of the surrounding infrastructure. Whereas vegetation is generally something that does get resolved when you build a structure, and so it's neglect that results in the vegetation becoming a problem. So in a way, water and vegetation are signs of either, poorly designed or poorly looked after asset, and that's kind of interesting. But what does that look like? Well, let's start with water, shall we? There's a lot of it here because it's a really rather rainy, grim day here in the East Riding of Yorkshire, and water washing through this structure is a major part of the harm being caused by it. But it's not completely separate from, in this case, vegetation. So I'm afraid we're going to have to talk about both kind of in a smooshy way. I mean, not least that, look at this pier. I'm going to stand on here for too long. This pier covered in ivy. And you might think, well, that's fine. But the result of water getting inside a structure, often because of not enough deck drainage, I'm looking up and looking at the state of the brickwork above me here. It's not good, folks. But particularly I want to talk about, well, you can see here that what's happened with moisture, evidenced by the lack of any sort of, also poor construction. Invariably, these are thrown up cheaply. But you can see the washing out of mortar. You can see moss. So moss indicating that moisture is going between the layers of brick here, and also by the fact that an entire course of brick has, or not a course, what's the other one? Let's say a layer of brick has just fallen off, which isn't good. And that's happened because moisture, and you can see dripping actually, moisture has got inside the structure. And you can see the delamination of the brick itself here. You can see, most painfully though, is that delamination is resulting in a horrendous voiding and crushing failure of the pier, which could result in it losing a substantial amount of its load capacity. So, not good. That is water getting where it shouldn't. Water scouring underneath isn't a problem in this instance. The majority of the water here is running off down into what I would guess is a culvert below my feet, and then into the stream over there. In fact, yes, I can literally see it, into the stream over there, and goes through the... So they've actually designed the scour element here, not a problem, but water, as you can see, is getting in. But let's find out, how's it getting in? Well, design of drainage details in the deck above, which you can see the deck above here, very simple, is one option. But it brings us to our second, which is vegetation. Of course, the other thing that is really important to make sure you're doing right on the railway is managing vegetation and getting rid of it where necessary, managing it where necessary, letting it grow where necessary. But the crucial thing is you can't ignore it, because if you ignore it, it does the bridge collapse that we saw a minute ago. The key thing is getting all this stuff tied in together so that you have a coherent plan in place before you build the railway, while you're building the railway, because letting all the moisture in and letting it wash out your mortar is bad, and after the railway, or at least while the railway itself is running. And behind me you can sort of see where that moisture is getting in, because neglect of the structure means that vegetation has grown in the piers, including trees. And you can see here that this bit of the top part of the pier here is being completely displaced by vegetation growth. Two problems with that. Number one, bridge go smash. Number two, moisture is being allowed inside the pier, into the interior of the structure, the brick structure, and is resulting in that moisture within, behind the facing brick, and resulting, often the cheaper brick as well, by the way, and resulting in the delamination and general failure of those piers. So if you leave a railway structure for a long period of time, this is what it ends up looking like. And this design of structure lacks the dead weight that you get from an arch structure, which is arguably an inherently stronger structure than this. But broadly, the same thing would happen over time if you abandon all of the brick structures around Britain's railways. This would start happening. You'd have the vegetation growth coming in, breaking up the structure, allowing moisture inside, and the thing falling apart. Structural engineers in the chat, have your say as well. But broadly, this is one of the main ways in which all that infrastructure would degrade. What's interesting is actually you can see there's a concrete deck on the... Oh, let's go and have a little look. And there is a concrete deck on top that's been added, I would suspect, a little bit later, and is, well, rightly this is fenced off for safety. It connects as part of the Wolds Way and connects over. They've actually diverted the path down, but anyway, so this allows us to have a little look from a position of moderate safety. Although again, you can see really close up here, this is, really close up, you can see what's happening here with the vegetation just breaking up the pier here. It's I mean, in amongst this chaos, you can see it happening in real time. And the same on the other side. The brickwork is just falling apart. You can see the exposure. I mean, the actual deck itself is not in great nick, but actually the delamination that you get with that sort of structural failure, there's a bit of redundancy in that. A pier going, as you can see on the other side, that is going to result in bridge fall down. How long do I think this bridge has as I stand under this thing that could just fall on my head any minute now? Don't try this at home, kids, by which I mean stand near collapsing bridges. How long do I think this bridge has? The thing is, it might last another decade or two, but equally, given the size of the plants growing in it, like this one, which is small and can get larger, I'd be surprised if this was here within 10 years. I think this might be a collapsed mess without intervention. And there's no chance of any railway coming through here to justify its being fixed, because you could just build a bigger bridge over the stream here to get tractors through. So, bye-bye bridge.